Thank you, Penina, and welcome to everyone. So before we go on to the main topic of the webinar, we'll do a quick introduction to AgriFrontier. Let's move on to the next slide. So AgriFrontier, we're an agribusiness and investment focused firm. We focus on frontier markets, which is predominantly Africa. We have a UK office. And also in AgriFrontier East Africa, based in Kenya, covering the East Africa region, including down to Southern Africa, including Mozambique, Zambia, Malawi, and also more recently we opened a West Africa office based in Nigeria and currently active in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. So traditionally, we launched AgriFrontier in 2014, and the services that we've been offering to date is around agribusiness consulting, and through that we've been offering feasibility studies, business valuations, strategic development, and basically everything relating to supporting the agri sector in Africa. Largely around helping businesses to scale and grow. On the investment side, we support businesses to become investment ready, to help them to raise capital. In addition, we support on the investor side, helping them with their commercial due diligence on businesses that they may be considering to invest into, as well as helping with pipeline development for investment firms. We also help on HR and executive search. We have a talent solutions division to business, where basically we support on executive search, senior management recruitment, board services, and talent strategy. We also support with performance management. On the agronomic and technical side of the business, we partner with crop nutrition laboratory services, who are active in the same regions as AgriFrontier, and they support on a long list of technical agronomic services, some of which are included on the slide here. So what we found with AgriFrontier, with our corporate sector consulting over many years, is actually a large part of the market is unsupported. So SME level, or what we refer to as the missing middle, are largely companies that need professional services, perhaps more than the corporate sector, but are least able to afford professional services and support. So last year, we launched the AgriFrontier Growth Hub to basically provide subsidized funding across this missing middle growth stage business. And we offer these services in terms of pre-funding support, which is largely strategic development and investor readiness, fundraising support, and then post-fundraising support. And we'll go into the what's involved in each of these stages. So on the pre-funding support, there's a wide range of services that we offer, and we create a bespoke plan for each individual business, depending on what a business needs. And we meet with you and ultimately work with you to identify what areas you most need to help you to scale and to grow and to be a success. Now, some of these things are around strategic development, could be market linkages, it could be business planning and financial modeling, could be governance and systems, but ultimately it's a wide range of services, all geared towards helping you to scale and grow your business. On the fundraising support side, this is where we help you to become investor ready, to basically help with the financial modeling, business planning, pitch deck preparation, and ultimately to link you to a long list of investment partners and investors that are within our network. We have a database of over 300 investors that are actively investing in across the African continent for different stages of the value chain, different stages of growth of businesses, different instruments, whether it be debt or equity, or in some cases grant. And basically, we match you to whichever investors are the best fit to your business. And then we help across the fundraising process, which typically can take sort of on average between 6 and 9 months, from preparation of investor readiness all the way through to completion and drawdown of funds. On post-investment support, we're available to continue to help support your growth and success, whether that be mentorship, coaching, continued market linkages, identification of management gaps. I mean the management gap side of things and the talent solutions part of what we offer, we think is really, really important. Ultimately, what we see is that one of the key success points for a business is making sure that you have the right people in place. So helping to identify management gaps, helping to identify talent that can fill those gaps, or in some cases helping with the mentorship, coaching and training of your existing management to help step up to those gaps, is something that we focus on supporting in that post-investment continued growth stage of the business. Also, just to explain the value chains that we operate. So some people that are relatively new to agriculture, they think agriculture is basically growing of crops, whereas actually we like to demonstrate that actually the value chain is far wider than that. So if you look at the input side of the business, whether it be seed breeding, genetic companies, inputs provision businesses, whether it be fertilizer or crop protection, irrigation, equipment manufacturing, machinery manufacturing, the input side of the ag business is quite wide. It could also be insurance brokerages for agriculture. The list is quite lengthy. On the primary production side, again, it's very diverse. It's very wide. If you look at agroforestry alone, if you look at the avocados, the fruit and the nuts, tea, coffee, macadamia, cashews, agroforestry alone is quite diverse. If you then add the complexity of whether it be commercial production or smallholder production, livestock, grains, oilseeds, there's a long list, and AgriFrontier has expertise across these various different value chains. We then move on to the post-harvest processing, aggregators, milling, storage, handling, trading, marketing. There's a lot of businesses that are involved in the in that side of the business as well, whether it be post-harvest processing within commercial operations, whether it be commercial primary production operations, or whether it be processing of aggregating businesses that are working with smallholder farmers. Also cooperatives. We then move on to agri-tech. So within agri-tech supports across the whole value chain as well. So it may be artificial intelligence, it may be agri-software, biotechnology, soil nutrition, like our partner crop nuts, seed breeding. Again, the list is quite endless when it comes to agri-tech. So we support a very wide range of businesses within the agri sector. I think we move on now. I think back to Penina. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And now I would like to invite Kelly, who will take us through the next. Welcome, Kennedy.
Hello, and Good morning once again. My name is Kennedy, and I'll be taking you through how do you maximize your fundraising potential. So you have a very good business, you've identified an opportunity, a gap in the market, but then there's always the big issue of capital, or whether you're starting up or whether you're scaling. And today we hope that we're going to briefly try and tackle and give some of the solutions or some idea of how then do you make your fundraising more effective, and how do you maximize on the potential that you have around your business. And I'll get straight to it. SMEs form the backbone of any economy, and in Kenya, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, then agri is one of the biggest contributors of the GDP, and these are mostly through SMEs, so young businesses that are offering solutions, that are offering products to then a market that is already there and a market that is growing. However, one of the biggest challenges that these SMEs face is access to finance, and fundraising in itself is not instant and not an innate talent that someone would or entrepreneurs usually have, but then it takes practice, and just like a muscle, with practice and time, then it gets a bit easier. And one thing worth mentioning is this process costs a lot of time, energy, and attention, and therefore it's not an easy process as it will be thought out to be. I get straight into it, and one of the areas that you need to focus on or need to work on while working on your fundraising is investor readiness. And this is something that we've tackled in previous webinars, and we have that material, that you have to have a strong business model. And this business model needs to be well articulated, that any investor would be able to make sense out of it in a very quick way. But key to the investor is they want to see how then are you making money. So it doesn't matter that even if you have a good product or the market is there, but then how do you get the product to the market? How then do you even add value to the product? Follow on that, then you have to have a very detailed financial model, and a financial model that speaks towards the investor. So the investor typically wants to see how then how are they going to get their return on the investment? Because at the end of the day, even if it's an impact investor or your typical private equity venture fund, then definitely they would want to see where or how is the business making money, and at what point, probably, especially for private equity and venture capital, is where do they exit. So they, depending on the investment thesis, they would want to know at what point would they be exiting the business. And then definitely you have to have a strong pitch and tell a story. So tell a story of when the business or how the business started, what opportunities did you as an entrepreneur identify, how then are you going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, and how then are you going to be of impact and of value towards your customers. So we've worked on these three, and we have those materials on our YouTube channel. So feel free to just go back and have a look and listen into what we elaborated on these three areas. One other key thing is you have to identify your funding requirements, and this is first you need to understand your financial needs. It's easy to say, I need money, I need capital, but then you don't know where it is going to go towards. So sometimes, there's sort of misplaced priority, that you think the entrepreneur thinks that they need money for capital expenditure, but the most pressing need at that moment is working capital. And therefore, you need to understand where is the shoe paining, where is the pinch in terms of financial need. And you need then to even go to the finer detail and for you to understand how much then do you require. It's not just a question of saying, I need money, but then how much then do you need go towards opening or scaling up the business. So this process, it's very key to engage if you have a finance team, or if it's even the production team that comes in and says, we think that we can take our capacity from 10 to 20,000 metric tons. And for that, we need machine ABCD. And then the finance team then comes in and says, that one we can raise internally, or we don't have that type of capacity right now. And then so that they're able to get those objectives, those goals, and that financial need to a T, that yes, this is what we need exactly this for this specific project. And it probably even doesn't need to come in a whole, the whole amount, but then it can be tranched, and it becomes easy even to speak to investors who are not very comfortable writing a one-off check. So then this is very key and very critical process within your fundraising journey. You then have to get a really good and a data analysis of your market. So this is very key to the investors, would be potential investors. They need you to know what are the current market trends, what is your competition doing, and what is the potential market demand. Because it's easier to say that, yes, there's an opportunity, but then, the markets are very dynamic. Markets are always changing. So it's very important to know what is happening within the market that you're in, the sector, what is your competition doing, and what potential demands do you see. And this is through evaluating your position in the market. And here you're able to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. And this then will be able to guide you or give you a guidance in terms of what do I need to do in relation to the weaknesses that I have, that they are not an impediment, but also in terms of strength, then where do I take advantage? So I have this potential, I have these strengths, then where and how do I take advantage of these strengths that you as an entrepreneur or you as the business possess? Then after that is, develop a financing strategy. And this financing strategy outlines the various options available. So there are a lot of options out there in the market, but then not all the options are ideal or that work for your business. And this strategy should also include a comprehensive list of potential sources of funding. So you can have a very easy database where you have your Excel and have the details of the potential sources of funding. And key is, you need to check out the ticket sizes that they're offering. You need to understand what is the typical financing instrument, even from the basics, what geographical region do they invest in? So you're probably in Kenya, probably in Uganda, and the would be potential investor only operates in West Africa. So it's also important to have an understanding and even understand their investment thesis. So maybe they are focusing on agri, healthcare, and you're in a different business. So it's very important to understand where and what sectors they are in. And here you should also research the specific investors you're targeting. What type of companies do they typically invest in? What is their investment process? And who is the key decision makers? That will also help you in terms of understanding the investor and creating a pitch towards what they are looking for and have a successful engagement. One other key thing is, as the entrepreneur, you need to determine your optimal funding mix. Typically, there are two types of investing instruments. That is either debt or equity. And from your financial model or from the nature of business you're operating in, it's easy then to determine. So some businesses are, sometimes debt is not ideal because of liquidity issues. So it's not an ideal position for you to take debt at that moment, because then 2-3 years down the line, or just in the short run, you'll have a lot of challenges in terms of liquidity. Then it makes a lot of sense for you to have equity coming in, or you can have instruments like quasi equity, where it's at a given point, this instrument gets converted, and therefore it is key and critical, and these will be informed by the financial model that you develop, that you're able to determine which instruments are you going to go for in relation to your investment needs. Then prepare a capital raising plan. Just like anything else, you need to have a plan that is defined. So the purpose and objectives are well defined. You have already assessed the funding needs, as I'd earlier discussed. You've conducted a market analysis. You have developed a financing strategy, and now you create a plan for investor outreach. So you already know what you need in terms of your funding needs. You didn't know what is out there in the market. You have a financing strategy, and then now you need to go and now start a fundraising campaign. So this is where you want to now start actively engaging these would-be potential investors. And then with that, come up with a work plan. So develop a timeline and be it a budget, because then, as I mentioned, this process, it takes a lot of time. So it's not a 1 day, 2 day activity, and definitely needs a budget, because you are either planning for meetings with the potential investors, you've probably engaged professionals on the same, and therefore you need to also develop a budget towards the whole process, and then have a mechanism to monitor the progress. Now, with that, you are able to identify, and you're able to be very agile in terms of adjusting to the plan. So maybe the plan that you've come up with after a bit of monitoring and evaluation, then you see that it's not as effective as you would have thought to be. Then you take a step back, have a bit of knowledge management, and then with the key lessons learned, you're able to adjust the plan, and you're able to be more effective in a fundraising process. So here is the most critical bits, where we talk about, now we're implementing the plan, and here you're reaching out to potential investors, you're presenting your project, and here you're also starting to negotiate terms. So it's very key and critical to maintain communication lines. So there's usually a lot of back and forth. The feedback isn't always at that time, because the investor will come back with a lot of questions in regards to your model, in regards to your customers, in regards to even the specific needs. They'd be like, do you really need all of this amount right now? And therefore, it is very important that as an entrepreneur, you don't get tired in terms of engaging these investors. And when you're evaluating company, especially during equity, it's very important to offer a fair valuation. Otherwise, if you oversell or undersell, then there's a risk that the investor will potentially walk away, and then you'd be effectively leaving money on the table. And therefore, also when you're negotiating for instance, for debt terms, look at what is there in the market, try and be fair as possible. The market cannot be offering 10% and then you're asking for 1-2%. Then definitely the potential investor would not be very willing to engage that conversation any further. And therefore, it's very important to know what is there in the market, do your research well, and ensure that whatever you're giving is fair. One very key critical thing is If you're not experienced in this process, the fundraising process, I'd say it's very helpful to seek professional advice from experienced transaction advisors, such as AgriFrontier. And as you know, we've mentioned at the beginning of the slides, this is something that we do help SMEs through the consultancy and the Growth Hub. And we will be able to help you understand the process. How do you approach these investors? How do you then negotiate for the best and best possible deal for your business? And therefore, it's very key, it's very critical that you engage or seek professional advice, even from a legal standpoint, from the financial bit of it, and you're able to get sound advice that is going to help you then make a very informed decision, because these decisions are somewhat sometimes technical, because the investor will present you with a term sheet. The term sheet has some terms, so you have like your drag along, tag along terms. And if you're not really clear on what they mean, then that is where you see some entrepreneurs saying, oh, this investor bullied me out of my business. So it's very important for you to really understand those terms that come with those term sheets before you sign on the dotted line. One other area that SMEs really need to work on in terms of maximizing their fundraising potential is always be prepared for due diligence. So investors will be very key, will be very interested in, we've had a business model, we've seen the financial model, it looks very interesting, the numbers are looking very good, but then they would want to know how have you, or what is, how in terms of your house, do you have your things in order? And this due diligence is usually a comprehensive review of your business, historical financials. They will even come to your factory and look and see how then do your operations. Have you set up the health and safety? If you're in manufacturing, do your employees have proper PPE? And some of these things look very minute, but then investors are very sometimes a bit sensitive with some of these issues. And this process, depending on the feedback, especially from the entrepreneur, it can be very lengthy, because the investor will always ask for documents. Okay, can you see your audited accounts? Do you have your licenses up to date? So it's very important that you be prepared for this process. And always, at all times, make sure that you have all the relevant documents ready and available. And don't take it as in a wrong way that this investor has one too many questions. For them, it's very important that they do have a lot of clarity as to where the business stands at that moment, and just have that very concrete, conclusive understanding. And therefore, at all times, have a data room with all these documents that will prepare you for an effective due diligence process, saving you a lot of time during that whole lengthy, intensive process. And I think this would be the last bit is, yes, you will talk to a lot of investors, but then do not let it deter you from engaging with investors during the process. So one thing that is important to mention is be prepared for rejection. Not every investor will say yes. And even for some, you will go through a very engaging process. You share documents, and the conversation will look very positive. But then they have the decision makers who at the end of the day will make a final decision. So not everyone will say yes to your business. And that does not mean that you don't have a good business, you don't have your house in order, you don't have your affairs in order. It's just probably they've gone with a different path, and therefore don't take it personally. It's all part of the process that, yes, you talk to many people, but only few or only one, definitely only one will say yes. And therefore, it's part of the process, but therefore take heart and we just take out the headache out of your way, focus on your business, and then we'll be able to support you in that journey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kennedy, for that wonderful presentation. I would welcome any questions or any comments. Yeah. Okay, John, you can go ahead. Okay. Yeah, John, you can go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Ambassador John Korede. I'm from Nigeria. I actually came across the program while I was actually at home with some of my staffs in my office. So I come to understand that there's actually a platform like this where we could, where we that have facility projects that we want to finance, we could come submit a request, and then it will be looked into. And then, but what happened is I have several organizations that I would have want Agri Finance, Agri Frontier to come into, but I chose to bring the carrot value chain. Now, Nigeria happened to be the number one in sub-Saharan Africa, the highest grower of carrot in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. Presently in the Nigerian agri value chain, they are trying to see how we can generate revenue through this portal because of the derivatives that comes out of carrot. Because if you really want to really ponder more on carrot, based on the document I submitted, because there are some requirements, there are some processes before the government of the day will make it an institution. We've been advocating over years since 2016. The idea was brought in place that we should see how we can create a road path to wealth creation through carrot value chain. But many people, when you talk about carrot, they only see it as a vegetable crop. They don't see the opportunity, the wealth creation one can create out of carrot value chain. And when you really look at it, carrot ranges in different sector, from the beverage sector, cosmetic sector, the pharmaceutical sector. I have seen in some of my stay in Thailand, I have seen a paracetamol made out of carrot. I have seen carrot cream, carrot soap. I've also seen a cake baked out of carrot. There's some in the cosmetic line, the carrot oil for skin treatment, and also in the nutraceutical line, where you have the green portion of carrot, the one that most of the farmers used to throw away. But they come to understand that the vitamin C content and also the beta carotene that also present in the green pigment of carrot, it is enormous wealth creation that also can be made out of that. Because some people are ordinarily drying it at home, and then they are turning it into chlorophyll. They use it to treat wounds. They use it to treat face acne. They use it to do so many things.
Thank you, John. Thanks for all your comments on that. I think jumping in to your initial point about I think you had sent over your details. So and how do we look at it? So what we normally do is arrange a a call to talk about your business, to understand the business, the opportunity, go into some detail and really to brainstorm how we can support and help. We then come up with basically a roadmap in terms of things to help and support your business grow. So it'll be interesting to hear more about this, but I think the best thing would be to, if you haven't already, to submit an application to the Growth Hub, and then we jump on a call and we brainstorm more about this. But in terms of carrot specifically, yeah, I've got quite a lot of experience in commercial carrot production, so it'll be interesting to dive into more detail of that on a separate call.
Thank you very much.
So I think we'll just go through one or two questions in the chat box, and please keep any questions coming through on the chat, or to raise your hand and ask questions. So one has come through from Joseph. Are the AgriFrontier Hub services free? So basically, they're match funded services, depending on what the well, all of them are match funded, but we're able to offer bespoke solutions to fit an individual situation. So in some cases where a business is seeking expansion capital or funds, then we're able to support on a success only basis, which basically means there is no risk to you as a business. In other cases where there is substantial work required to become investor ready, such as strategic development, business planning, financial modeling, pitch deck preparation, there is basically a match funded and again milestone based fee. But basically the best thing is to apply, and we look at your individual situation. We'll come up with a roadmap free of charge, and then within that roadmap, it will basically set out if there are any fees and on what basis the fees will be. As I say, if there is substantial work involved in pre-investment investor readiness, there may be a matched fee. If it is purely fundraising, then that could be based on a success only fee and only payable at the point of obtaining the funds. Yeah, so then that probably move straight into, I think, the first of Stephen's comments. His question was, if I already have all the investor readiness documentation, could you support me with fundraising support? And yeah, that absolutely. So that's quite common, where we see businesses that actually have already got very good pitch decks, multi-year financial models, business plans, and actually the main thing that they now need support on is linkages with investors and that final stage of raising capital. And on that basis, yes, we do help with fundraising support only, and on that basis, we would do it on a success basis. Yeah, so any more questions arising, please do post them in the chat, or raise your hand and to speak. I think if there's no more questions, I think just to summarize, if you have any doubts or would like to find out more, please do get in touch. There's no cost to jumping on a call, brainstorming your business, and for us to develop basically a roadmap as to where we feel the steps you need to take in order to successfully raise capital. There's no charge for that. And then through that stage, we'll be able to identify how best the Growth Hub can help and support you. And also just to summarize, basically, the key steps and key summary of the fundraising process. So basically, it's understanding the business, the market potential, basically setting out your business and vision and story and getting the investor ready documents ready, whether it be a pitch deck, a multi-year financial model. It's then basically matching your financing needs with the right investors, looking at the right capital structure for your business, whether it be debt or equity or a combination of both, and basically working through their due diligence process, coordinating the investors, their legal due diligence, transaction documents, and coordination of transaction documents and any legal support that may be required, basically all the way through to a financial close. It's in some ways it may feel daunting, but I think the Growth Hub are ideally placed to basically help and support you every step of the way. Yeah, I think, and as we wrap up, I think there's just one final question that's come in from John. It says, are there other agricultural associations like wheat farmers, soybean association, rice farmers would also be interested? Can I refer them to go ahead? I mean, yes, we're closely associated with the various different associations. I mean, whether it be avocados, macadamias, grains, oilseeds, there's many associations that we're closely affiliated with and work with. So yeah, please do refer or just get in touch and we can jump on a call and talk in more detail. Thank you. And I'll just hand you back to Penina.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and spending time with us to get to learn more about how to raise, to do a capital raising plan. So as usual, we normally have monthly webinars detailing on different topics on investment readiness, fundraising plan. Yeah, so in terms of our next webinar, it will be an explanation on how to craft a winning marketing strategy. So here we will be explaining on how to create marketing strategies and how then you can launch the strategy onto the market. So thank you so much for your time. I'll see you in the next webinar. And we will also upload this webinar on our YouTube channel. You can have a chance to look at it there and also try to internalize everything that we have talked about today. Yeah, have a good day. Thank you.